Hello and welcome to this video on the thing called organic. Organic has been co-opted by marketing departments, health gurus and peddlers of woo. It is associated with healthier, better food and less dangerous chemicals. Some advertisers go so far as to slap it on table salt. What then is this organic thing that they seem to praise? One quote summarizes organic food aptly. First, the author writes, "Organic food is defined not by any material substance in the food itself, but instead by the holistic methods used on organic farms." Later they add, "The implicit, unproven assumption is that organic agriculture is, by its very nature, better for the environment than so-called conventional farming. Organic food is considered distinct from other food because it supposedly does not rely on the following: synthetic, human-made pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. Organic farmers may use natural pesticides approved for organic food production. More stringent rules may impose restrictions on genetically modified organisms, antibiotics, or growth hormones. The most restrictive do not allow irradiation as a way to preserve food. These rules as such are the core of organic food, but they are also vague enough that you can work around them. Let's begin with the synthetic rule. The definition of synthetic in organic food is malleable, depending on which organization approves the food as organic. They may or may not be allowed to use approved fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides that are man-made. This definition of synthetic could be limited to on-site processing of manure, or it could be the use of heavily processed products like a seaweed concentrate. Then there are the pesticides. Some farmers rely on only plant-extracted chemicals as pesticides, such as pyrethrum. Others use arsenic or a potent pesticide derived from the bacteria Saccharopolyspora spinosa. They are allowed to do so as the active ingredient is considered naturally occurring. Despite this, up to 20% of organic food still gets to the customer with known residual pesticides on or in it. There is a significant percentage that is either unknown or not detected, as no one looks for what they do not know how to test or what to test for. In contrast to this, up to 30% of conventional crops may get to the customer with trace amounts of known pesticides on or in it. This difference is despite conventional crops making about 80% or the lion's share of all produce sold. Next is the rules regarding GMO crops. The United States Department of Agriculture's National Organic Program regulations prohibit the use of what they call excluded methods. These include methods that are defined in the regulation as methods used to genetically modify organisms or influence their growth and development by means that are not possible under natural conditions or processes and are not considered compatible with organic production. Under this program, excluded methods further do not include traditional plant breeding, conjugation, fermentation, hybridization, IVF, or tissue culture. This does raise questions about CRISPR, which has been developed from a naturally occurring process in bacteria, and whether or not this falls under the definition of organic. As has been established elsewhere, GMO crops do not pose any danger to you or anyone else. The genes simply cannot be transferred to a human. or for that matter, most other species when they eat it. Next are the rules about antibiotics. Under the organic rules, you are not allowed to give antibiotics to animals raised for meat, poultry, dairy, and eggs. It is one of many requirements that food producers must meet to use the national accreditation system. In general, by the time the meat, or for that matter any other product gets to you, the antibiotic is long gone. In the case of meat, more often than not, the antibiotics have cleared the system long before the animal dies, let alone when you receive the meat. Regardless, the protein or otherwise would deform and become non-viable by the time you ingest it. Further to this conundrum, vaccines that prevent illnesses in animals are considered organic, but antibiotics are not. Finally, there are growth hormones. These are the last item in this grey area. Unfortunately, it is a very minor issue, but one that gets a lot of attention from organic proponents. The difference in hormone levels between an animal that is fed them and an animal that is not is tiny. In order to make up the difference between those two animals, a single person would need to eat more than 77 kilograms of beef. That's 77 kilograms in a single sitting from an animal that had been given growth hormone than if they were to eat from an animal that had not been given growth hormone. This is the same amount that you would find in a single egg. Finally, irradiation. This is the strangest and simplest of rules that prevent food from being organic. According to the FDA, irradiation does not make food radioactive, compromise nutritional quality, or noticeably change the taste, texture, or appearance of food. To summarize that, it has no effect but to make it safer. In 2011, there was a major E. coli incident in Germany. The outbreak was traced back to bean sprouts in particular that could have been treated with radiation and made safe. Despite this, the organic industry continues to lobby against the use of radiation. If the organic produce crowd views this mess of conflicting purposes, irrelevant rules, and pointless pedantism as organic, you may wonder what the bone of contention is from academia. That is surprisingly simple to answer. Here's an example to help you understand the difference. Spinosad is a pesticide. It can be isolated from the bacterium Saccharopolyspora spinosa. It can also be produced from a synthetic pathway. Side by side, the two products are identical. You can move the two from the bacterium host and out without it having a functional effect. In other words, the difference between a synthetic and naturally occurring version of these things is nil. In fact, chemistry uses an entirely different definition of organic from the marketing. The easiest to understand definition is this. Organic is almost any organic compound or chemical that contains carbon. As one of the most abundant elements on Earth, carbon is therefore in most compounds and chemicals. Simple oxides of carbon, for example, carbon monoxide and dioxide, are considered inorganic, but that is more of an exception than the rule. This view from chemistry drastically undermines the organic marketing. All food, by definitions used in biochemistry, are organic. In fact, many poisonous substances could also be considered organic, but the consumption of those is strongly warned against by all. Why then does Big Organic view their version of organic as safe, but not others, if they are all by definition the same, and at least with biochemistry there is a fundamental and consistent definition? Perhaps it is because of a natural versus man-made argument. Natural compounds can refer to those organic products produced by plants or animals. Many are still extracted from natural sources, and this is because they are too expensive to synthesize. This is not true of all products. Taxol is an example of where it is too expensive to extract it from the original plant it was isolated in, and it is now synthesized from a related chemical in a related plant and produces one of the leading chemotherapy agents. Then you have examples like vanilla. The vanilla bean is very expensive. Producing vanillin, the primary flavoring agent, is not, and therefore a synthetic version is substantially cheaper. You would not consume chemotherapy for the sake of its natural benefit if you are a sane person, and in general, most people would not pay significantly more for a vanilla bean when they could buy the vanilla flavor for significantly less. Ultimately, organic as used in produce marketing is just that, marketing. It indicates that the manufacturer, supplier, or grower has attempted to make it a particular way, rather than what they have not done. Much like there is no definition for legal purposes of natural with any significance, neither has organic any standardized or meaningful definition from a chemical or biological perspective. It is a procedural term where it is the end result, and even then, this result is largely indifferent to or from conventional farming. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions below.